Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you love these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, see it and buy it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing the late great Rolex Oyster Perpetual Sea Dweller 16600 that ran from 1988 to 2008. In fact, the deep sea gets a bum rap as the watch that killed off the Sea Dweller 40. A beloved timepiece, and at a glance you could mistake it for a Submariner because it's very discreet about its ultra-deep diving credentials. An elegant watch, still slim enough to fit underneath the cuff, 40 millimeters in diameter on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. Though 14.6 millimeters thick, it has a cupped case back. That means it always settles into the wrist and sits far lower than its thickness. Now the watch, lug-to-lug, is compact, old school Rolex, 47.8 millimeters, and even with the solid end link bracelet, the 93160, it's still only 50.8 millimeters lug-to-lug, so you're going to find this watch wears well on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. 20 millimeters between the lugs, and because this is a T serial number, back when there were still strap tool access points on the lugs, you can easily fit this watch to a NATO, a textile, a custom rubber piece, aftermarket. This generation of Sea Dweller looks great on aftermarket straps, and it's easy to put it on one. Now let's get a little bit closer to the watch and talk about some of the finer features of this bracelet, because it is a later piece. The Sea Dweller was one of the original Rolex watches to gain solid end links. So you do have that solid end link profile, but you also have the hollow center links. So you have the solid end links span across the wrist and solidity, but then you also have a little bit of that vintage Rolex rattle. Now the bracelet here is a V serial, which corresponds to 1996, and this watch actually has a T serial, which also corresponds to 1996. The original paperwork for this exact reference and this exact serial number is dated 1997, so you get a sense of when this watch was made and sold. Excellent condition. The tolerances of the clasp are superb, and you can see that the stamped patterns of both the pseudo links as well as the Rolex coronet still very sharp on this one. All of the metal is retained. There are several different anchoring points, and the 93160 does feature the flip lock extension system, so you've got that internal dive extension if you want to fold it out over a dive suit or just wear it over a thick winter coat or sweater. Solid end links, hollow center links, old school Oyster clasp, and of course you have those strap tool access points on the flank of the watch. I'm going to show you each of the access points so you can see that there's plenty of depth and volume left to each of the lugs. There's no protrusion of the spring bar through the end of the lug. This watch is completely intact. You'll also note that the polished flank is in good shape, and there's still a sharp break between the mid case and the flanks, as well as a little bit of evidence of the original factory bevels on the ends of the lugs. So this one is quite full. Crown guard's in good shape. You can see Rolex triplock crown, present and correct, fully intact. The bezel is a sharp piece, completely undiminished. I will also mention that one of the few pieces on this watch that clearly is not original is the bezel insert. It's the only piece of Luminova loomed gear on the dial. It's actually matched to a original tritium dial with original tritium hands, and of course this watch made during 1996 would have featured a tritium dial. The only piece of Luminova on this watch is under the sapphire of the pearl on the bezel. Now the watch has a wonderful bezel action. You're going to use this one for timing high and dry, and of course during the daylight, because the rest of the dial is dead as a doornail. The detent is crisp, it feels good, it sounds good, and it lines up perfectly with the minute hand, so you can use that as an impromptu 0 to 60 minute timer. I've long preferred dive bezels to chronographs. I just find them easier to read, and I rarely time anything longer than 60 minutes. All of the hands and the indices are white gold applique. We're in the modern era of Rolex dials here. Black gloss lacquered base. You can see the original tritium signature down at 6 o'clock. There's a little bit of a tritium fade, but a lot of what people call tritium fade is often oxidation due to exposure to the atmosphere, as well as tarnish due to exposure to moisture, and this watch has none of that. It's an original tritium dial, but it's in outstanding condition. As with the Sea Dwellers, up until the Sea Dweller 50, there was no Cyclops eye magnifier, which makes for a beautifully balanced and unencumbered dial. Underneath the case back of this watch, which is water resistant to 1,220 meters with helium escape valve for you saturation divers, caliber 3135, 31 joules, automatic winding with bidirectional action for smoothness, and a jeweled staff for the same reason. 48-hour power reserve, beats weight 28,800 vibrations per hour, stop seconds, quick set date, full balance bridge with a free sprung balance for shock resistance, overcoil hairspring to help it keep excellent time in any orientation on your wrist or on your dresser at night, helping the watch to earn a COSC chronometer certification, screw down crown naturally, the timepiece with a tough movement that is both precise and robust, the same movement being used across the Rolex sports watch families. So the Sea Dweller and the Sub equally tough until you get to the Oyster Case. The Sea Dweller is a cut above. From its dramatically profiled Cyclops Eye-less crystal, which is also a little bit taller and a little bit thicker, to its distinctive 9 o'clock flank, there are subtle cues that this is no mean Submariner, but I will tell you, it is one mean machine. You can see it and you can make it yours on the watch box. As promised, Rolex Sea Dweller T-Series. The only piece of Luminova on the watch is the bezel.